It's been a while since I've done a show. It's been a while since I've done a show. And I'm sorry, but I'm back. I think it's been like a month. I'm sorry. I've been traveling. I've been napping. I've been a big ball of energy. I've been doom scrolling. I've been watching the destruction of democracy. But I'm back with another show because life goes on and you have to sometimes make a jump back into creativity. Yeah, that means I'm still Kirk, and this is still Dumb Test Late. So let's get back into it. Yeah. Now time for some interactive fun. So, yeah, we're back in it. So, as a refresher, this is Dumb Test Late, a podcast where I create stories, sometimes tell stories, but mostly it's creating stories. Mostly it's rambling on and going off crazy tangents about the random ideas that pop into my head. Excuse me. But like I said, it's been a while since I did the last episode. The last episode, if you're listening to this chronology, well, that's not a word. I also on this show mispronounce a lot of things if you haven't, figured that out. But like I said, if you're listening to this podcast in order, the last episode I did, I'm in season 3. I do remember that. But the last episode I did was a bit crazy. And I'm sorry, but sometimes the story creating process is just me rambling as a stream of consciousness. It happens. I confuse myself. I know. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to iron out some things with this one. Because like I said, this is a story creating podcast. And I made the commitment that, especially with this year, I want to do at least 2 episodes per idea that I'm trying to, get out. So the last episode was You and You. It was a story about doppelgangers. It was based off some unsolved mystery kind of sci-fi real life events where a person who lived in Texas suddenly ended up a couple thousand miles away in Washington somewhere at the side of a road wearing clothes he'd never worn before, and in Washington where he's never been, and he was struck and killed. And it was hit by a car. So I took that real world thing and turned it into a sci-fi idea where doppelgangers, that's why I called it You and You. And also bubble theory where there's different versions of you that spread out throughout the universe, or they're different dimensions. And I'm going to try. I know I'm already getting deep in that. The past, present, and future are all happening at the same time. There's different dimensions all of you happening at the same time. It gets complicated. Okay, I'm sorry. But here we go. I'm actually going to relate this back to another idea to expand on the story. But let me try to simplify what I'm trying to set up. World building. Okay, so you as a person, you're in your one dimension. But often, if we talk about bubble theory, a version of you splits off, and maybe because of decisions you make, or just maybe a cosmic event. So you have different versions of yourself living at the same time as you in different dimensions, like kind of mirror dimensions. So there might be 100 versions of you. There might be 50. There might be 2. There might be 1,000. I don't know why, because it's not real science. This is sci-fi. We're making it up as we go. And they're all living in their dimension at the same time. It's kind of like the multiverse in Marvel and everything all at once, that movie. You just different versions of yourself. In mine, you're not going to be like a crazy different version. You're not going to be, a 7 foot tall Bigfoot monster with hot dog fingers in a different dimension. You're going to be the same version of yourself. Maybe you dress different. Maybe you choose a different spouse, or you have a different job, but you're humans, and it's not like a crazy switched up, Doctor Strange multiverse of madness where there's all these different versions of the universe. No, it's all human. If you looked at yourself, it's like looking at one of those mirrors that fold in a certain way where you could see just infinite versions of yourself spread out. That's how it's going to be. It's going to be just different mirror universes of yourself. So that's the world. And you probably don't know that there's different versions. You're in your own dimension. So That's the truth of the world that I'm setting. Okay, so we have that going on. So I'm going to jump to the antagonist, who in the previous episode that I did, You and You, I based it off two different real life inspirations. The Mad Trapper of Rat River, who real quick was this basically outlaw in Upper Canada who almost supernaturally evaded capture from like the Royal Mounted Police, but this was back in the 30s or something like this. And also David Glenn Lewis, that was the person I said that lived in Texas, but then ended up in Washington the next day mysteriously and was killed on the side of a random highway. It's going to be based off of those two characters. And the main antagonist figures out a way that they can jump through these multiple dimensions of themselves, because when they jump through that and they basically take out one of the versions of themselves, they make one universal version of themselves in this dimension stronger and stronger. So they have to keep jumping these multiple dimensions of themselves, taking a version of themselves out to basically take the power of the self back into one. Because when you split off these multiverses, you kind of, I guess, lose power. Let's say that. Or you devise up power. That's why you, as a regular human, you don't have superpowers in my story. But this antagonist figures out a way that if they jump these multiverses, sorry, my phone beeped, they can basically combine their powers by taking out these broken or mirrored or bubbled off versions of themselves. So I need to jump back because, like I said, I'm going to bring back an old story back. This is season 3. So back in season 2, episode 24, but I did multiple ones with this, my Insecta story. I'm going to bring that back. Sorry again for the background phone noise. It's a new phone. I'm sorry. But like I said, I'm going to bring back the Insecta story to finish that and basically transform it into this story. Because the way I saw that story was set up like a comic. So the original story from season 2 is going to be the world building of that and setting up that character and the protagonist, which was Cole, which was a person who should have been a shaman, but they kind of strayed away from that mystic world, but they were brought back into it. They were basically, go back and listen to it. I think it's good. Mothman was in it. Like the Mothman was the guide in that story for my character Cole, who, like I said, should have been a shaman, but kind of strayed away from the mystic world. And the Mothman was their guide because they were all these things pulling them and telling them they should be a shaman back into this mystic realm and this mystic world. And there were 2 ancient Mesopotamian gods that were kind of pulling my character Cole in 2 different directions. But what Cole realizes, because Cole has the shaman in their background, they had the vision of sight. But since they kind of shunned that world, it wasn't fully figured out. The Mothman kind of guides them and gives them the breakdown and shows them that there's 2 Mesopotamian gods that are pulling them in different directions from the underworld. They were Urshagal. It's been a while since I did that episode. Urshagal and Nurgle, who have their own backstories. And they were pulling Cole in these different directions. But Cole figures out, with the help of the Mothman, and the story goes that they're both kind of trying to trick him them. I didn't really have a gender for Cole. Trick Cole into doing these things that they don't realize that if they do these things for these 2 gods, that they basically will lose their power and these gods will take over the world. You always got to save the world because they're from the underworld and they want to basically make Earth the new underworld. And because they were, basically betrayed gods in their own story, and they want to trick Cole to steal their power to become these dominant gods. But Cole figures it out. He defeats Nurgle. Nurgle was the god of plagues. So like I said, I wanted Nurgle to be this god who would try to do these large worldwide plagues. I said they came up through COVID and all that stuff. So my protagonist Cole defeats Nurgle, doesn't get tricked by them. Urshkagal, we're making up. That is the Mesopotamian god. Sorry to these past Mesopotamian gods for messing up their names, but Ereshkigal Igal. Pronounce it how you want, but I'm going to say Ershka girl, which sounds like something else when I say it too many times. But okay, Cole doesn't get tricked by them. This is a female goddess from the underworld, was once ruled the underworld, but was tricked to, it basically was taken away from her. Cole doesn't get tricked by Ershka girl, but he does, but Cole them. Cole gives Ershka girl the underworld. And what happens with this, my character Cole, sorry for rambling, but my character Cole in the Insecta story, the way it ends for them is they become basically the protector of this dimension. Like there's multiple dimensions and all this stuff. Cole figures out the way to do it, to basically, in a good way, not to become an evil character. Cole can combine all the different versions of themselves because they have that. There's a shaman, they have the power of sight, and they're being helped from Mothman. They didn't get tricked by these two Mesopotamian gods. Cole basically, I'm sorry, this is going to sound crazy, but ones themselves. They bring all the different dimensions of themselves into one to make them a powerful person, a powerful protector of this realm. But with that, what happens to Cole is that they basically send out a beacon to all these previous Mesopotamian gods and all these dark forces as like a sight, as a beacon or something like that, or a signal. And it basically opens up a portal or something like that, that now that Cole is powerful, they have to defend all these realms and all this stuff. It makes them basically and I'm sorry to say this, with great power comes great responsibility. I'm stealing that from Spider-Man. I know it's if you try to like rewrite that in any way, it just comes back to being with great power comes great responsibility. Thanks, Uncle Ben. Okay, and I'm still rambling, but so Cole is now this all powerful, but in a good way, protector of the realms. But the end of the story is that it just doesn't end that way, because I wanted to lead into other stories, is that now Cole has to protect this realm at all times. That's why Cole was so shunning the shaman life, because they can see that was their, fate. If they took on this power, they can never stop. They can never get lazy. It would open up them to become this protector. And finally, with help of the Mothman, they take on that responsibility, because they have great power now, to become the protector. The Mothman kind of disappears and goes back. It was the way I set up the Mothman in the story was it was one entity made up of a bunch of other entities. That's why it comes around at certain times. That's the lore of the Mothman. So now basically Cole is the new protector, the new Mothman, and all this stuff. So that's that world ended, and that sets up this story that I'm continuing, the You and You story. And stop me if I'm confusing you. So jumping back into the You and You story, where I said the antagonist figures out a way to basically, like I said, one themselves in a supervillain type of way. So like I said, with the Insecta, the Cole story, when they take on this responsibility, they open up the realms for these deities, these past deities, to come and basically try to take over. And that's Cole's job, is to act as a protector. So with this story, the You and You story, there's going to be the way the supervillain of the antagonist is going to work is that even though, you see early on in the story, the multiple dimensions, the multiple yous, the multiple persons, them getting combined, them getting one back, and it's going evil. But Cole did it in a good way, so you see the supervillain being built. What you don't realize is that, like Cole's story, the Insecta story, where he had these two, I'm sorry for misgendering my own character, but when Cole had the two Mesopotamian gods trying to trick them, that's happening here. So looking up, I was just trying to find a random Mesopotamian god. I found one called Bel-Sarbi, Bel-Sarbi. I can't remember the gender. Let's say he was a kind of minor Mesopotamian god. So he wants to take over this realm as a minor Mesopotamian god. So this beacon has been opened. So he sees the way that Cole was trying to be tricked by these other gods, but Cole figured it out. Cole had the Mothman to help him. So this minor Mesopotamian god, Belsar B, is the actual supervillain or antagonist in the story. He tricks the character to basically one themselves, to go and jump these dimensions with the help of this minor Mesopotamian god and basically combine their separate selves. But this person who's doing this doesn't realize they're being tricked by this god. They don't have the Mothman to help them. So they're growing and growing and growing by wanting themselves, bringing their multiple selves back to one, and they're becoming evil and evil and evil. They're tricked. They don't know what they're doing is going to cause destruction. So Cole, the shaman, the protector, has the power of sight and sees this happening. So Cole is going to fight this, has to use their power to fight this evil Belsar B disguised as this person. And it's going to go jump through multiple dimensions. Cole has to convince this person that they're being tricked because Cole has sight. Cole can see that it's not this person that's figured it out. It's this minor god that's that it's basically impersonating this person and getting powerful and more powerful by tricking this person in different dimensions. So that's what I'm going to take from the real world story of the person, David Glenn Lewis, where there was, sightings of him at his home in Texas, and then sightings of him from people he worked with or knew. Like they said, oh, he was at the office, but then someone at the same time said they saw him at the airport, or they saw him, in the garage by his car. The reason that's going to happen is because when the Belsar B, I have to keep reminding myself, Belsar B entity is taking over the antagonist to make them more and more evil. They're jumping through dimensions and things are getting warped. And so that's why people in one realm or one dimension keep seeing this person over and over in different places, like things are getting warped. That's another sign that Cole picks up on and realizes, because they're chasing after this Belsar B negative entity as they become more and more powerful. So Cole, the protagonist, can't just kill or defeat this person in one realm because it would just keep multiplying. The Belsar B deity would keep just jumping to the next version of this person that they're tricking and consuming the multiple life forces and combining it into one evil self. So Cole has to try to convince this person, not the Belsar B deity, but this person, the multiple persons, that they're being tricked and they're being turned evil because they're being lied to, they're being misled and all this stuff. Cole has to appeal to their humanity, which they lose basically when the evil Belsar B entity is taking over. But Cole tries their best to basically appeal to the human side and show them, like how the Mothman did for Cole, that this is the reality. These are these multiple versions of yourself, and you're being turned more and more evil. And Cole tries to bring them back. Because that's going to be the whole story. That's how you fight evil, is to convince people that they're being lied to, they're being tricked, they're being misled by someone who looks like yourself or talks like you or maybe appeals to your, darkest desires or things or your thoughts and all that stuff, because it's multiple versions of you. This Belsar B deity sees inside of you and takes over you and all this stuff. But what Cole doesn't realize is too late, that this person, their humanity is gone. They're basically more of the Belsar B evil deity at this point that wants control, wants destruction, wants to destroy. And so that's why. So in the real world story of, he was mysteriously at the side of a road wearing different clothes that he never had before. And he would just hit side of the road. He was side of a highway in the middle of nowhere in Washington. And he was just struck by a car. So now I was listening to a podcast when I heard this story, but the vision I had was that, the person who was hit by the car, David Glenn Lewis, why he was so mysterious is that he was struck by himself or another version of himself. What happens is that Cole appealing to this evil deity, and he thinks that it didn't work, but Cole basically tricks this almost all powerful deity that looks like this person to go to the wrong dimension, whereas there's one version of themselves that is convinced by Cole. But they have to basically self-sacrifice. They have to take them out in a way that takes out all the versions of themselves. It's something special, or they're this special one. You know how stories end with like, oh, you were the special one, and the special one wasn't. The specialness was inside of you all along. It's kind of going to be like that, to be a cop out. But so Cole tricks this deity to go to the wrong dimension, I should say, where Cole, as a shaman, can, like I said, jump dimensions. So he convinces this dimensional version of themselves that's what they have to do, and they get convinced. So the deity thinks they've won, and they're in the wrong dimension, and they get taken out by one of the split off mirrored versions of themselves that's almost powerful as them. And that basically, it's a self-sacrifice. He basically killed himself, but he knew he had to sacrifice himself to save, Bel Sarbri from being all powerful and kind of taking over all the dimensions. That's it. Yeah, that's how I see it so far. I want to kind of do another episode about this because there's all this other stuff I want to talk about and ramble about more. But I know I'm bad at rambling. Like, there's all these things I want to set up with the world. So like I said, I want to do 2 episodes per idea. So this is the second episode for the You and You, where I brought back the Insecta story and my previous protagonist, Cole. This is setting up this world. Like, the Insecta story was the first story. If we're doing comic book rules, that sets up the world and all this stuff. And so Cole becomes this protagonist hero. And this is the continuation of their story. And they jump into this world with the You and You story as the new Mothman, the new savior, the new messenger, the new shaman. But I do want to continue this because I love this as the comic book idea. And I'm setting up different worlds or different storylines. Like, first storyline, the world setting one, the hero setting one. And this is the new story. The hero is set and now they're saving the world, because you always got to save the world. Or if you're in Marvel, you only have to save New York, because that's all that matters. Or in DC, all you have to save is Arkham City and whatever Superman is in, that little city that they only save all the time. The rest of the world, don't worry about it. But okay, yeah. So, have I confused you too much? I'm sorry. This is how I create stories. Stream of consciousness, get it all out, then iron it out, and then have random thoughts pop up into it when I should be working. But I'll do another episode on this. I don't want to jump to something else. I kind of want to do more uplifting stories. I don't know if that was really uplifting, but more savior stories, more bringing out the good and the better in people's stories. I don't know if I ever do a love story again, because like all the next ones I've written down are kind of tragic stories. Like I said, I was out of town for a while. I did a lot of traveling. That helped me kind of world build a few more my next stories. Like I have a bunch of stories ready to go that I need to basically, ramble on about, that you will hear about, because I'm going to get back into my original promise was to do this weekly. I know I've been gone for a month and I'm sorry, but who knows what order you listen to this in. You could be all over the place, but I'm thankful that you listen. I'm thankful that I have the ability to still do this. I'm thankful democracy isn't totally dead. The world hasn't ended. But I'll end it there, because I'm just going to ramble on about real world stuff, and I don't want to do this. This is the escape from real world stuff. Hopefully I'm helping you escape from real world stuff too. Because that's what we creative types and artists need to do. We need to create more and more now as escapism and basically rebellion too. Okay, so I ended there. Thanks for listening. I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Slate. I'm still creating stories. I haven't used AI in a while for this, so I'm kind of slowing down AI as a storytelling tool, as a helpful tool. I've never just used AI alone. AI was kind of the spell checker. If I only had one part of a story, let me see what AI comes up with. But I'll use it a little and little here and there if I get really stuck, or just a comparison to see what I can come up versus AI. But I do use AI from like the pictures and the cover art and all that stuff. You can see a lot of that on my website for this podcast, dumbtestlate.com. I still have the Instagram dumbtestlate. I really don't post on there as much because for some reason Instagram had blocked it, but I did get it back. I'm going to go back to posting on here. More and more AI pictures to basically show visuals of the story ideas I have. But yeah, like I said, for the 10th time, I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for listening. You're great. Don't let the world tell you you're not. Do something nice for yourself. Do something nice for someone else. And love yourself. Bye-bye.